So I'm sure you all are dying to know what we're here to talk about. And just so that you all know, Justin and I have been debating this topic ourselves quite a bit. Sure, it's not surprising to people. And we even debated whether or not we wanted to have this conversation at all. So the subject, Greg, if you will, 10 guesses, still didn't get it right, is prize tables. And specifically, who should be walking the prize table and in what order? So it's a question that, yeah, exactly, Seth. It's a question that we get a lot, or not a question, but it's feedback that we get a lot. And I've had several conversations with other match directors, with shooters for sure. It's something we ask about in our match follow-ups. And, you know, so the way that we do it at our matches is through a combination, really. So what we do is we have each of our class winners, first through third place, for each of the classes that we do, including our range officer class, which we award trophies for. Everyone that gets a trophy walks our prize table in that order. So all of the first place, then all of the second place, then all of the third place walk the table. After that, we alternate between a random draw and the next placement. So last year, our random draw included our ROs and our shooters. So someone was randomly drawn either from the RO class or from the shooter group, and then we'd add in fourth place, and then we'd do either a random person and then fifth place, and a random person, and so on. So what happened last year is a lot of our ROs didn't get to walk the prize table till really close to the end, and we've been trying really hard to attract really, solid ROs, experienced ROs, people who normally might want to shoot the match but have a lot of experience shooting matches so that they can, elevate the level of ROs we get and bring that experience to the table. So we've been talking a lot about how to do that. And one of the ways to do that is by having them walk our prize table. So our theory was, well, if we put them in the random rotation in their own class, so we do fourth place, or we do a random shooter, a random RO, and then fourth place, then a random shooter, a random RO, fifth place. We're trying to mix the ROs in earlier in the order. That was the goal. So this year we noticed in the feedback that we got from our shooters that a lot of people didn't like that. A lot of people did not like, no, we don't have air rifle walk the table, Greg. Although we did make a cute little post-it note trophy for our air rifle division this year at our X match. So we ended up getting a lot of feedback that people didn't like that the ROs were walking the table, and they especially didn't like that they were walking the table early, even the ones that got trophies. So, for those of you who don't know how this stuff comes together for the prize table, I just want to, give you a little glimpse into the match director life. I've got spreadsheets up the wazoo for our prize tables. We start having discussions with people in as early as December of the prior year. It's a lot of emails back and forth. It's a lot of people saying no or they can't. It's a lot of, promises that we make and have to fulfill on our end to get people to get those prizes on the table. So we want to make sure that our sponsors know, one, that we appreciate them, and two, that their prize is going to go to a good cause, and three, that they're going to get some sort of return on investment, because that's the whole deal with this. They don't just send product out because they have all this extra product. Most people don't have extra product right now anyway.
Yep, I can see it kind of going both ways. I mean, from the sponsor's point of view, the prize table is a good opportunity for them to get their name out there, so it's a form of marketing or advertising for them. So they are getting something out of it.
Right.
But on the other hand, some of them are just doing it to kind of like give back to the shooters and to kind of like do us all a favor. So, Ruth kind of touched on it, but when the match director sets up a match, there's a match fee. And I don't know about all the other match directors, but for us, almost all the match fee, if not all of it, is used to cover the match. So it's to cover, the range fees, the food, porta potties. I know I'm forgetting a lot of things, but the match fee is pretty much used up. So the prize table is kind of a separate thing. The prize table is a result of a lot of work by the match director. It's not really the result of the match fee.
Right.
So that's just kind of something to keep in mind. What we're about to do is kind of get some dialogue going back and forth, but we're just going to kind of like give you a lot of different perspectives to look at this from, to keep in mind kind of like what we have here, to maybe collectively come up with maybe what's a really good system that can work for most of the people.
Yeah.
That's the other thing, is like no matter what prize table walk order you use, like inherently it's going to leave somebody for the end, so it can't work for everybody. So what we want to do is make it as fair as possible, to basically help the industry, to help all the shooters, to help the match directors put on a really good match so that the whole industry wins together.
Right. So selfishly, since I spend like the bulk majority of my preparatory and post-match time on prize table and sponsor relationship stuff, I really want people to understand that, for us to get prizes on our table, I work really hard so that everyone takes something home, and that they don't just take a hat home, that they take home, a hat plus a little bundle of stuff, something that feels valuable to you. I know not everyone's going to get everything that they want, but I do put a ton of effort into trying to make sure everyone gets something. So it's a challenge to continue to try to make sure that our sponsors know that when they donate to our match, they're going to get enough back out of it, because people get inundated. Like, I think Shane said it. He's like, sponsors are overrun with requests these days. Absolutely, they are. And we want people to keep supporting our matches so that we can keep doing what we've been doing. So to do that, it requires a ton of work. And you guys that attended our match saw the thank you cards and stuff like that. And I know we ask you guys to fill those out. Hopefully people do. But again, that's just a way for us to set ourselves apart so people keep supporting our match. Because then when we need something, like, Seth, when we call up Seth and say, hey, we need some steel targets and we need them next week, can you rush them to us? He takes care of us. But the whole point is, if we don't take care of them, then they don't take care of us. So, it's a reciprocal thing. It's not a given. And again, it's not the match fees that cover the prize table at all.
Yeah, so just to kind of like cover some of the ways that people have done prize table walk orders. So the most traditional way is you just simply do it top to bottom. Whoever takes first place goes first, and you go all the way to the bottom. It's a perfectly valid way to do it. It's, arguably the most fair way to do it. There's pros and cons with every method, but that's a popular one. Another one on the other end of the spectrum would be to do completely random draw. So you've got all the names of the people there. To be fair about it, the MD should do it right then and there, do some random draw generator, and then start calling the names off completely random. And
this year specifically, I had a conversation with a shooter saying that we should do it all random, and I had a conversation with a different shooter that said we should do it all straight order of finish. So just to let you all know what the spectrum is. Another option, specific to the ROs that Greg wrote in, is doing a side table for ROs or a 50-50 cash. So we did end up paying our ROs a little bit this year, and we paid them a little bit of cash and they walked the table. But for those of you who don't know, at least our ROs, a lot of them showed up Thursday afternoon, which means they took off at least part of the day on Thursday. They for sure took off Friday to shoot the match and help us set up. They came early on Thursday to help us set up. They sacrificed their entire Saturday to spotting and scoring for you guys, and then a lot of them stayed after on Saturday to help us clean up. So that's a full 2 to 3 days worth of work. They didn't get paid near enough. I don't even think any of them had all their expenses covered for the weekend. So we fed them. We tried to provide a place to stay for people, but that's not even really covering people's gas expenses to get up there and back. So
yeah, so one of the things that we wanted to do to try to A, attract good ROs, B, allow them an opportunity to shoot a match, and C, when they shoot the match the day before with us, then it allows us to prove out the match, so it kind of is like a win-win-win situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, if they...
Just real quick on that note, to clarify for Ken, they're shooting the day prior, and that helps us test our course of fire and make any adjustments necessary and make sure our match book is there and we can answer questions. It also familiarizes them with the stages, so it helps the match run faster. But no, they're not shooting for a score, like a submitted official score, but they are shooting the match for first through third place to walk the prize table with a trophy. And then, the remainder go in the random draw.
Yep, so we treat that RO match as like its own little match. So we treat it fairly. They all have to shoot the whole thing. They all have to shoot it the same. They break into squads. We do a little practice score match for them And then, like Ruth said, the top 3 get a trophy. They walk the prize table, and it also gives them, like a match feel if they've never shot a match before. So it's kind of a way to incentivize ROs to shoot the match.
Right. Exactly.
So, and then another, so talking about different ways to walk the prize table, you have top to bottom, or you have completely random. Well, I think I first saw Jim C doing this, 4 or 5 years ago. He was doing, top to bottom, but every other one he would mix in a random. So that kind of seemed like a good way to do it. Ruth and I did that for our first X match in 2020, and then we started bringing the ROs into the mix. So we're kind of trying, different things. We're trying to feel out what seems like a good balance, a way to make this work for everybody. Again, about the ROs, the reason that we're putting so much weight on the ROs is because we just have strong feelings about a good, solid match being dependent on having good ROs that understand the stages, what they're doing, have all the tools necessary to do a good job, to keep things fair, to promote safety, and to promote, a fun match. So we're kind of, putting a lot of weight on that.
We are, yeah. So and Greg, yes, you can self RO, but we had 104 shooters at our match this summer, and 104 shooters, 10 squads or 11 squads of 10-ish, ROing themselves just makes for things not necessarily flowing as smoothly. There's also the whole fairness aspect. So is everyone really interpreting the matchbook exactly the same? So again, yeah, absolutely. We'd adapt if we needed to, but we feel strongly that ROs add a big value in those aspects.
Yeah, when you get down to, a match where it's highly competitive and you have 1 or 2 impacts separating shooters at the top, I mean, there's small, teeny little factors that start to matter. So we really push on range officers kind of like treating every single shooter the exact same, just to kind of minimize on any variation there.
So Seth's talking about how Clint Sharp does it. Yep, that sounds about right. So it's really good for the people who only go to a couple, or people who are mid-pack, but it irritates the top guys. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so we've been asking the vendors what they think. So Ruth's been doing follow-up emails for the X match we just had. So she sends an email to each vendor. She says, hey, thank you for sponsoring this match. Here's some photos of the winner of your prize. You can use it on your social media or however you want to use it. And then we're also asking, by the way, what is your opinion on prize table? How do you want your prize being used? So just as you can guess, we've had like all sorts of answers. Some of them are saying, it should, I believe that it should go to people that need it more than the people that win. And others say, I think it should go to whoever does the best. Or some people say, I don't really care. I trust that you. Most people will say they trust that we're going to use it, however we see fit, which
Right.
is a common answer. So about that answer, if it's up to the MD, what does that mean? Well, we see that as we want to use it in a way that's going to benefit the shooters the most, or like everybody who's there. The reason that we care so much about ROs is because we want the match to rise and the match to be a great match. So if we think about the prize table the same way, we want to benefit the match as best we can. There's always going to be people that are left behind, though. So in the match that we just had, for example, we had, like Ruth said, we did the top 3 of each class. Then we did number 4. Then we did random RO and random shooter. Number 5, random RO, random shooter. Well, the way that worked out is if you were like, let's say you were like a top 25 shooter, so let's say you were in like 25th place. I forgot where they ended up, but if they didn't get pulled randomly, they were way at the bottom, right?
Like towards 70th place or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, so out of 104, you were towards the bottom third.
Yep. So, there's always a way you can look at it where it looks like unfair or it looks harsh, So,
And it is harsh for at least one person. So if it's completely in order, then the person that finished in last maybe arguably could benefit the most from some of the prizes, doesn't get it, right? So a lot of people like to mix in random for that reason. But if you finish in 4th place or 5th place consistently, and you're like 20th, 25th at the table a whole bunch of times, it starts to get frustrating too. So
Exactly.
we totally understand, every perspective is valid here. The biggest thing is there isn't really a perfect answer to this, and we recognize that, but we wanted to hear, a bunch of other people's perspectives. So it's awesome. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and for commenting. The other thing is to float by you guys kind of what we were thinking. So it feels like 2 years ago, we didn't really do justice to our ROs by having them in randomly. I liked the idea of a side table for ROs. That's what we did the very first year, but it makes it a challenge for us to determine which prizes go to the ROs and which don't. So what I told Justin is, well, I'm going to take the 20 best prizes and I'm going to put them on the RO table, and then we'll see how people feel about it. So, I mean, I don't know if that's the best solution either, but it really comes down to what we've discussed more recently is that instead of, we swung a little too far maybe by having 5th place random draw shooter, random draw RO. So maybe we do 5th and 6th place, then random shooter, random RO. 7th and 8th place, random shooter, random RO. So what's your guys' thoughts on that?
To bring in one more option or another thing to keep in mind, so at the NRL 22 championship this year, they started doing, they were calling up shooters based on kind of a weighted scale. So since there's a lot more open shooters and less young guns and less ladies, they called a lot of open shooters, then they called a young gun or two and a lady or two, and then a lot more open, and then young gun and lady. So that would be kind of like a more high-tech way of doing it. We've been using a spreadsheet, a Google spreadsheet. That way we design the spreadsheet before the match, and then after the match we can simply copy paste the names in with their scores, and the spreadsheet comes up with the prize table walk order so that we don't have to do that on the fly, and with the extra time that takes and with possible mistakes. So that's the way we do it, and I think that might be kind of like a future way to go. If there was a way to have a spreadsheet weight things more fairly, then you could still sprinkle in randoms if you wanted to.
Yeah. So again, I mean, so NRL 22 specifically, NRL 22X is meant to be more of the competitive side of things, right? So I'm not saying that we're going to gear everything towards youth and ladies or anything like that, but it is great to encourage more youth and lady participants, which is why we do 3 places of trophies. So, that's kind of one way to sort of fairly sprinkle those in, or equitably maybe sprinkle those in. It's another thing to consider. It does get a little complicated, but, like Eric said, if you just come RO and I stack the RO prize table, then we'll have a lot of ROs. But in all seriousness, I just want to take a second because of that comment to plug. If you haven't RO'd a match, please do. Choose one a year to support an RO, and not everyone has to RO every match. If all the top shooters RO a single match, it's not ideal either because we want top shooters to compete. But if you guys take, turns and you want to RO a match,
if each person RO'd one match per year, there would be no problem getting ROs.
Right. Yep. So definitely something if you haven't considered to consider, especially if you are newer. It's helpful to get on Glass and watch. If you're mid pack or lower pack, it's helpful to watch how other people approach stages. I think Jen mentioned you learn a lot. Jen's been ROing for a couple years now, and she ROs a ton.
So Tyler Orth says he likes the NRL Hunter format where the ROs shoot for score, so they shoot the day before and then they get a score. So we've been talking about that too. We think that's kind of what's missing for us. So we come up with all these like bonus items, ways to incentivize people to come RO a match, but still they're coming for their entire weekend. And if they're a serious competitive shooter, they don't get a score for that shoot. So I think that kind of is what's missing. That would be a really good way to go.
Yeah. DJ wants things weighted towards youth shooters because they're the future. Agree with that. A lot of sponsors really like to gift things to youth shooters as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of comments about people think that once the really high level shooters get to that point, they tend not to need that much gear. But I've also heard like people can't afford to go to all these matches, so for a lot of the high level shooters, they use that prize as kind of the way to kind of cover their match expenses.
That's a good idea, Jared. I like that. They said at the Barrel Maker match, they get like a schmedium bag and a swag bag, but they also get a chance at the prize table. So we could do a little gift maybe to the ROs. That way, if they do end up walking later, like you mentioned, they still come away with something of value. So yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, like was brought up before, it really comes down to what the sponsor wants. So I mean, we could just every single prize that's donated, we ask them, hey, where do you want this to go? Who do you want it to go to? And then we could, maybe have an RO table and no, too much work.
Way too much work. Way too much work. Sorry, guys. It's so much work already. I put a ton of time into our prize tables. Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. So, Ken, that's a topic that we brought up a lot. That's what we debate all the time is, yeah, they're not really technically shooting the exact same match. I've heard people's response to that be like, well, then, if they get better luck because they have better weather, great. Good for them. That's just the luck of the draw.
Well, I think the way it would be is the RO would be its own class, so they're only competing against each other.
Yeah, so for us to do that on a national level, then do we have ROs competing at the national championship? And let's think about the logistics of that and organizing it and adding a whole nother class. It just gets complicated. It's not that it's not a good idea, though.
Absolutely.
It's a really good idea. It's just being able to execute on it that starts to get a little bit complicated.
Maybe you can only get one NRL 22X score as an RO per season or something like that.
Yeah, Todd, our next match is in October. It's a night match. It should be fun. So hopefully we'll see you. Yeah, Nebraska RO is shot in 15-degree weather with 20-mile-per-hour winds. Competitors shot in beautiful 2 days. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it gets a little complicated then, too. So, like Justin said, having their own class would help with that. The challenge with that is, okay, so now how do we elevate the competition to the next level? How do we do the championship qualifications and things like that if your score only counts for that class, but really you're an open class shooter and you only RO'd one match? It's like, it just gets complex is all.
Yep.
How many hours do you guesstimate you spend on reaching out to sponsors? Oh, Shane, so many.
More hours than anything else.
Like tens, if not like 100 per match.
So probably 50 hours before the match, and then like setting up the prize table at the match is probably 10 hours, and then probably another 20.
30 or so after for follow-ups. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I like that idea, Greg. Maybe we might do that specifically for next year. Have a sponsor. Here's our different options for sponsorship, and maybe the ROs are its own separate chunk. I like it. Thanks,
Deej.
There we go. Yep.
Yep, can't make everybody happy, but what we're trying to do is make as many people happy as possible within reason.
Greg, how many hours is Greg at? He's at 10 to 15 hours. Really, Greg? That's it. I do too much, I think. Maybe I do too much. It's a curse. It's a blessing and a curse. But I kind of enjoy it a little bit, but it is a lot of work. Thousands, Eric. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, and I think the majority of ROs do it to help Russ. So, speaking of why ROs do it, and then we just want to share with you guys one story. So, our RO shoot this year, our first place RO, his name's Jake, and he's the one who took the half off on shoots. So 1710 on the prize table is for 50% off, and he's the one who won that prize. I know a lot of people, I think, just saw him with a rifle and thought he won the whole rifle. It was a half off, but still, it was a great prize. So he finished in first place for ROs, so he walked fifth or sixth to the prize table? Fifth?
1, 2, 3. He was the fourth to the prize table. So he's a new shooter. This was I think he's been to 2 monthly matches, so this was his 3rd match he shot.
And he's been borrowing a rifle. In fact, for that match, he borrowed one of our rifles. And he still shot lights out during that match.
Yeah, he shot, I think he got 70% of the available points, which was pretty good. It was a hard match.
Yeah, it was a really hard match, especially for a new shooter, or a newer shooter. So he's able to win that. He was going to wait to buy a rifle, and he was probably not going to buy that magnitude of rifle.
Yeah,
But
he kind of was looking at Todd Anderson's. He kind of wanted one.
yeah,
So.
okay, well maybe that's why. But his wife didn't want him to buy one of those rifles, so he ended up being able to afford it a lot sooner than he thought because he got that price. So, just a different thing to throw out there in terms of variables.
Yeah, it turned out perfectly, I thought.
Right. Thanks, Jen.
Yep, separate prize tables. It's a really good idea.
So, Greg, question. When you come to our next match, let's just hypothetically say that I put, like, half of the RO prizes are, like, top-tier prizes. How would that make you feel as a shooter? If you looked and you were like, well, I'd have a better odds if I was ROing this match than shooting this match. I'm just curious. My tables are lame, he said.
Jason Jurist says we make him happy. I think he just likes post-it notes.
I think he does too. Jason won our top ear gunner trophy that I wrote on a post-it note right before our banquet. So
LaRue gives MBTs to ROs. Good to know.
Nice,
Thank
Ken.
you.
That's awesome. That'd be good. We could put maybe a couple things in a little package for people. That'd be sweet.
Yeah, I
Like
mean, we've talked to vendors before, vendors that offer products that aren't necessarily 22 specifically related, and we've told them, like, it doesn't have to be 22 precision rifle related. Like, most of these people have other guns. ARs is a perfect example.
Yeah, we've talked to a lot of outdoors stores too about that kind of stuff, and we're like, clothes is great, whatever. Plug for the Vortex. They send RO specific prizes. Yeah. Vortex is awesome. Nice. Nice, Shane. Yeah, exactly. Deej, tons and tons of hours. Yeah, that's right. I forgot about the thank you cards. Those take me forever, too. Thanks, Troy. Troy's got my back. Yeah. So, Zane, they don't really get to count the match for points, at least not in our current format. So it's kind of a nice perk that they get a chance to do that. And hopefully, if we had unlimited time to be out there setting up in advance, then it'd be cool if we could, like, coach people even during that stuff for the ROs to get, some added perk out of shooting it. But really, I don't think shooting the match is as advantageous to the ROs as it is to the match or to us specifically. So it's a small perk, but to me, I'm looking at it like it's giving us more value. So I have a hard time saying, here, you guys got to shoot the match. Good, that's something that you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it is a good point, though. I mean, it kind of seemed like we said, we're giving the ROs a lot. They got to technically shoot the match for free. They got to eat for free, and they got to walk the prize table, and some of them got trophies. So, I mean, it is a good point. We're giving them a lot, and if you really think that it's such a great deal, then you should come RO.
Yeah, Zane, come RO or night match or shoot it, either way. But
if you don't, then it must not be that great of a deal, huh? No, and it's probably just because it's a lot of work. You got to take time off of work, and you don't get credit for the score. So.
Right.
I think that's kind of what's missing.
Right. So, yeah, I think we did a lot for the ROs this year. Hopefully, several of you guys are on here, so call me out if I'm wrong. I think we did enough for you guys.
Oh, yeah,
this
one
year.
thing I left off, too, is we got an Airbnb for them, too. So
yes, that was an option. Not everyone stayed there, and there wasn't enough room for every single RO to stay there. So, luckily, it worked out perfect. The people who wanted to stay could. But we're trying to take the, a little bit of the what you're spending out of pocket away from it, too, for some of our ROs, because our range is out of town for us. So, yeah.
Yeah, Seth brings up a good point. He says, leave it up to the MD and let them use the prize table for what's missing. And he says, like, if you want to get new shooters, do completely random. If you're short on ROs, then push ROs. I mean, technically, we had like 20 ROs, I think. I
just want to say this, though. We had 7 people drop out the week of the match. So there is an RO shortage. And it's hard to find good, reliable ROs that then show up. We had a couple people that came on kind of last minute, but we had 7 drop out. If that would have happened and we hadn't gotten a bunch of extra, that would have been really difficult for us to manage because we had ROs that were they're volunteering for food and they're volunteering to keep me sane and, things like that are important.
Ken says the best system he's seen is to have a separate RO prize table for their match.
But he said that they walk it the day before. I actually really like that idea, Ken, because then the shooters never get to see what I put on the RO table. So I'm going to stack it, and then the shooters won't get a chance to look at it
Don't
and
know
wish
what
that
you're
they
missing.
were ROing. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly, Todd. That's why we have to have ROs volunteering to keep me sane, because the stress levels. We got more than one, Jen, for sure, about ROs specifically walking the prize table, and it's a topic that's come up before. It's not unique to our match, which is again another reason why we wanted to have this discussion, because I think a lot of people that show up to matches those that aren't match directors or haven't RO'd a lot of matches, they don't know all of the background that goes into this stuff. So we wanted to educate people on that piece of it, but we also wanted to bring this topic out and show how many different opinions there are. And I think there is no 100% going to solve this problem solution here, but I think that there might be a more ideal solution maybe than we thought of before, for example.
Yeah, just another part of the backstory here. So there was a match last summer where the match director, so at the end of the match, it's time to give out awards. The match director calls out the winner. The winner goes to walk the prize table. Then they call out an RO, a random RO. And then they call it second place and a random RO. And it caught a lot of people off guard. And it seemed like there's kind of a lot of bad juju going around because of it. So at the end of the day, whatever we decide to do next year, we promise you, we're going to put it on the match description just like we did for this match. So before you sign up, you're going to see exactly how the prize table is going to be walked.
Yep.
So I think that'll kind of, prevent people from feeling like they get caught off guard.
Right. Yep, absolutely. So we want to be clear with our prize table walk, and we suggest that too to other people. Then the next night shoot is in October, Greg. It's the 29th of October. It's the Halloween match. You should come. It'll be fun.
Or if you want to RO, you can come.
Or yeah,
shoot
if you
the day
want to
before.
RO, the prize table is going to be stacked. So Rob wants to know about the ROs shooting the event Thursday before. I think, the earlier you can get the ROs there to shoot it, the better, because you can make changes if, there's a hiccup in your course fire or something like that. The challenge with that is, for us anyway, people have to take off work just to get there by Friday morning. And if we don't have them shooting early on Friday, then we don't get done in time for registration and shooters to do dope gathering. So for us and our format, Friday morning was the best format for that. But if you can swing it and people can get there Thursday, all the better.
The earlier you can set up your match and prove it out, the better it's going to be.
Agreed. Oh yeah, the RO shoot was practically torture. Yeah, so the night match was tough last year for sure. It was our first night match that we designed, and we made some changes. Like we bumped them all from 90-second stages to 120 because that was already hard. And then this year, our RO shoot got delayed by like 3 hours because it was just downpouring rain. So we shot in the mud for the first good chunk. So Tyler says, why pay when you get an opportunity at a great prize? Work the hardest, invest the most time and money are usually the top 10 and should be rewarded. Yeah, nope, it's not going to be perfect for everyone. That's for sure. The MDs make the RO shoot the match. Polar Vortex. Yeah, so the Polar Vortex is Eric's match, and that was February, the inaugural event this past year in February in Minnesota, and it was a balmy, like, negative something degrees in the morning.
And snowing.
And snowing, and bolts freezing open. Yeah.
One idea is that in order to shoot our match, we're going to assign you an RO position, and you have to come RO that position, otherwise you don't get to shoot the next match.
Yeah, so we do a random draw of everyone who wants to shoot our matches, and if you miss your RO slot, so like you're ROing the Halloween match 2022. All right, if you miss that, then you don't get to shoot our next match next May.
Exactly. That's all.
Yeah, Greg, So one, we have an amazing group of shooters up here that, some of them attend multiple monthly matches a month, and we have a ton of people that are just so engaged in the community and the sport that we have a core group of ROs that show up in RO almost every big match around here. So Russ, Janine, Jen, Todd, and JT Hall, like they're all in the chat right now. They're all super solid ROs for us, and they volunteer pretty much every time. In addition to those guys, we do a lot of personal favor asks of people. So we're like, hey, we're really desperate. Will you please RO our match? We've done a lot of, last year we had a lot of new people who had never even shot one of these matches before, and we just told them what it was and then taught them how to do it the day before, which is another reason to have people shoot the match, because if they've never experienced a match before, then it gives them that experience so that they know what it's like as a shooter. We had, I think we only had like one or two this year. One maybe that hadn't competed before.
I think so, yeah.
So the goal is to have people who've competed before, because it's going to make it easier to make good calls. But yeah, it's a struggle. Yeah.
Josh Halligan says, maybe just have one RO per stage where they're not necessarily spotting, they're just kind of enforcing consistency.
Yeah, that's definitely a way to do it for sure.
I mean, sometimes you do get, though, like, if you let the squad spot for themselves, they're going to be just a little bit more lenient and kind of calling more impacts. I mean, not always the case, but that could be the case. So, I mean, the more serious the match is, or the more that's on the line, like a championship, the more you're going to want probably 2 ROs on every stage.
Yeah. Ken, the night match is in Minnesota and New York Mills. So we'll have a Facebook event posted shortly here. I just have to get our little logo done up for it, and then we'll get that one posted so that you guys can RSVP to that. So registration will probably open next month for that one. So, Aaron, that's kind of a sad way to look at it, but it's probably not the kind of ROs that we necessarily want to attract anyway. But, I think most people are much different in attitude from our experience, so for sure in this area. Yeah, I don't know, Greg. We should get on a phone call and we should, brainstorm this, because it'd be interesting to kind of hear different perspectives on it. That does make it feel like it was insane, Greg, when you compare it to PRS Nationals. Yeah, it's a lot. It was really fun, but not everyone who shows up to an X match is really prepared for a 104-person match. So, we're going to limit our Halloween match, because it's a night match, to 80 people. So we expect that one's probably going to sell out pretty quick. I think for the summer match, we try and accommodate as many as possible because we can spread them out. We have more daylight to work with.
Rob's asking what the best way to get a list of ROs to reach out to is. I mean, it's just kind of like who you know in your community and asking around, and you kind of learn. But, I mean, it's hard to find ROs that are willing to do repeated matches. I mean, some of them do, but it's a lot of work. And I think the average person that comes and spends 2 days there doing a great job, working as hard as they can, they feel kind of wore out. So it's hard to get people to come back for repeated. It's be hard to get someone to want to be on a list,
Right. I'd say another way to do it, though, Rob, if you're trying to recruit, is to talk to people about the benefits if they're starting out, or if they're learning, or if they just want to get better. Explain to them how much watching people in the top dogs compete and the bottom dogs compete, and comparing the two is helpful. Getting a lot of glass time is really helpful too. It's like expediting your learning almost by ROing. And then also advertising on Facebook. We do a lot of that. I do a ton of posts. You guys probably see it all the time. You're probably sick of it. About, come shoot our match, come RO our match, come visit us during our match. I just really, put it out there quite a bit so that people know what's happening, know when it's happening, and know who to talk to if they have questions. We had people from out of town come and RO our matches both years. And during Halloween, I think too, we had some people from out of town. So some people just aren't comfortable enough to hop into one of these big matches if they've never seen it. But if they're competing at the monthly matches and they want to see what it's about, it's a good way to do it. DJ agrees with me.
Yep. If there's no ROs, the matches run slower. There's a lot of benefits to having them.
You guys are talking faster than we can keep up.
Yep.
I'm
a slow
scroll.
reader.
I'm scrolling for you. We're just gonna. Deej, are you gonna come RO our Halloween match or shoot it? Jason, deal. I will make you a special post-it note. It's easier to find. I missed that one. Yeah. You have to earn the post-it notes. It's not a participation post-it note, no. Tons of range moms, yes. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, I mean, I think this has been a really good discussion. You guys have brought up a lot of really good points. You know, we work really hard to try and hear as many perspectives as possible, even when sometimes we don't agree with the perspectives or we get a little heated. Like
it's always healthy when someone throws something at you don't agree with, because then it's like, all right, but wait, you know.
Yeah.
Put yourself in their shoes. Hey, it's a good point.
Right, exactly. And like I said, all of these opinions are valid and all of the perspectives are valid. There's a lot of different perspectives is the biggest thing. So, you know, we hear you guys, and even if we don't necessarily do things the way that you would prefer, we still understand that perspective and we hear it for sure. Just trophies. I know we've heard that too. Was it? Oh, it's Tyler. It's right there. Okay. No prize table and just trophies for the top 5 and call it. Yeah, I thought seriously, especially this last time, about no prize table. But it is a good way to get gear into people's hands, and for people like me who started out and really could barely afford to participate in this sport, it's kind of a nice way to supplement what you have, being able to pull something from a prize table, and for our sponsors to get their, you know, newer products out in front of people and to establish those relationships, I think is helpful. But yeah, it would be a lot easier to do no prize table. I don't know what I'd do then.
I know.
What would I do with my time?
Matches wouldn't be like dreaded.
Right. I'd have to start like helping with setup though.
Jeez.
Tearing down targets. That I don't think I'd rather do the follow-ups. And I'd rather chit chat with people and call the sponsors and talk about how we can help them.
I keep coming back to myself personally. It's like, what does the sponsor want us to do with the prize?
Right.
But then it's also, you know, with the 100 hours that Ruth puts into it, what does Ruth want to do with the prize table? It's
Right.
kind of like, to me, it comes down to what they want and what Ruth or what I want. You know, I help as well, but
Yeah.
but yeah, we want what's best for you guys though.
Right. And that's kind of the goal is,
So
you know.
tell us what's actually best for you.
Right.
Do some soul searching, look in the mirror, and tell us what's best for you.
And think about the whole picture too. Like, remember, we need ROs. We need, you know, we need a variety of people showing up to shoot so that we can keep doing this. Because I really think growing the sport is the future of the 2A conversation. The more people we can get involved, the less debate there is around
Hell
those
yeah.
things. So, exposure is a good thing. Yeah, as long as they know ahead of time. Yep, that's a good point.
Yep, we'll keep letting you know before you sign up what it's going to be.
AJ wants to know how we decide which sponsors to reach out to. All of them, AJ.
So I'll give you a couple tips without letting you steal all of our sponsors from us. But we told you who our sponsors were. There's a good place to start. Just look and see. Go on. Here's another tip. Go on Facebook. You'll see some of these like new up-and-coming companies that are either brand new or let's say they've been around but they're trying to get their presence back known, and it's kind of like someone that no one's really thinking of because they're kind of like out of the spotlight. Those are perfect because they're hungry and they're like trying to get back in. So like you reach out to them and they'll be like sure, and they'll send you prizes. So
Yeah.
there's a couple tips. And
Yeah.
then just keep a list, keep a spreadsheet, just stay organized, stay in touch with them. The more time and work you put into it, your emails should be, you know, custom, tailored to that specific individual. The more of that stuff you do, the more relationships you're going to build and the easier time it'll be. So
Yeah.
Ruth's 100 hours should go down to 80 and then go down to 60, and pretty soon it's just going to be automated, and there's going to be truckloads of stuff just coming to the house we won't even have to ask.
Exactly. Yeah, no, but really, AJ, I would say what it comes down to is making sure that you're clear on what you're going to provide back to them too. So, it's a reciprocal thing. It's not just a one and done type situation. We put a thank you card with each of our larger prizes. We don't do them for every single little thing, but we do them for most of the stuff on the table, just so that the sponsors get a chance to hear from the people who won their prize, who they are and what they won, and, hear a word or two of appreciation for that, which hopefully helps them feel more connected to the people who actually won the prize. I thought of that because I think I thought of it, or was that your idea?
I'm sorry, I was reading.
I don't remember. So anyway, somehow we came up with that 2 years ago because I know that not everyone posts on Facebook. And I've seen fewer and fewer thank you sponsor posts on Facebook. So having that thank you note right there in front of you, pre-filled out, already stamped, addressed to the sponsor, just helps people be able to fulfill that. Because as someone who struggles with ADHD myself, I have every good intention of thanking my sponsors and being very direct about it and all those things, and then it just falls by the wayside for me. So I wanted to make it as easy for the shooters as possible, because then more people will do it. So that's one way that we try to, incentivize people to want to work with us. But the other thing is just figuring out ways to get, asking them what would be helpful to you. Is there anything that we can offer you?
Is there any new product you're working on? Anything you're trying to do that we can help you with?
Exactly. So yeah.
And what do you think it is, the yes to no ratio? It's probably half and half, maybe?
Oh, it's like 60% no's at
60%
least.
no's?
At least 60% no's, and I'd say that that's probably generous.
So all you got to do is reach out to 100 people and you got 40 prizes.
Right, pretty much. But a lot of people send more than one thing. There's a ton of people
true.
who do some really good support, and
Absolutely.
a lot of people who, I know people hate sometimes on the discount certs, but that allows some of the smaller businesses to provide a prize without losing money. Because some people are losing money when they provide a free product to someone, especially, not to pick on Seth, but our steel people, they're, it costs a lot of money to ship that stuff, let alone provide the actual steel. So for them, a percentage off might be what they can offer you. And to me, that's better than nothing. So if you were going to buy their product anyway, now you get a discount on it. That's kind of a plus. So
another thing that's kind of off topic, but it's on topic. So I was at Nationals 2 years ago, and there was a pro archery guy there, and he was just there just to shoot a 22 match and just to have fun. And he was like, he's like, pretty cool prize table, but where's the money? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, at the big archery matches, there's like checks, like 15 grand or something like that. And he said, like, Hoyt bows, like, coughs up big money, and then all the other bow manufacturers have to compete with that. So, like, they're kind of, like, leading the charge. And there's actually money involved. And I think, like, in our sport, there's just not, like, big companies like Hoyt to provide that. But at the same time, there's, like, Ruger, and there's some big names out there that could put up some coins. So if you're listening and you're one of those, and you're in charge of one of those companies, you should put some money on the prize tables.
Put some money on the prize table. Yeah, you'll get a lot of looks for that for sure right now, because there's no competition in it yet. So
exactly.
You don't even have to give that much probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really interesting statement as well. So I'd say for that kind of stuff, our sport's just really new right now. We have a lot of unknown match directors. We have a lot of unknown matches. Ours are just getting known, and we've done 4 of them. So it's like for sponsors to go, oh, that's a match that I recognize and know. They don't know those matches yet. So it's hard for them to determine with the limited marketing budget where to put those dollars. There's some sponsors, though, that come like lights out, show up regularly. Our optics sponsors are not only donating to prize tables all the time, but they're showing up at matches to do support and things like that. I think Lapua and SKA are on a lot of prize tables. Bushnell, Vortex, Athlon have showed up every year for us for prize tables. So
Josh says Masterpiece Arms pays if you win top 3 in a 2-day national match. That's cool.
Yep. With their chassis. Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I think, if more manufacturers start doing that, that'll be good. and they can, yeah, like they'll tell you what they want the money to go to, and chances are it would be a top level shooter. I mean, we don't want to lose that. We like the random thing, but we still don't want to lose the whole, like, if you win, you get something really good. Like, we still believe in the spirit of competition, and we want to promote that as well.
Yay! DSG Precision is going to give $100 to the top youth at our night match.
Nice.
All right, that's the first post that I'm going to make in our event page when I do it. Thanks, Troy.
That's awesome, man.
I'm representing. This is my new favorite sweatshirt. I'm sweating out here in this. It's not that cold out, but I love this hoodie so much. Yeah, what are the entry fees at the cash prize archery comps? Probably a lot more than what we pay.
Hey, Tyler, what are the entry fees at those matches where the winner gets 15 grand? Is it like $100 or what is it?
All right, we'll wait for him to respond to that one. Scroll back up a couple. MPA. Oh, Susie wants to know why the top shooters are so concerned with who walks when. I'm just going to speak from my perspective because I don't want to speak for anyone else. And if anyone else wants to chime in. So not that I'm, constantly a top level shooter, but I won a lot of ladies class a couple years ago. And it was really cool at that point to be able to take something valuable off the prize table because I didn't have a whole lot of equipment. I had my own setup, like just my competition rig, but I didn't really have any other guns aside from my carry gun. So for me to pull a rifle off the prize table, the first time I did that, I pulled a BMR and I was so excited. I was like, I have 2 guns now, just super jazzed about it. And it took me like a whole year almost to get it, but I ended up using that as a loaner rifle, and I pulled a lefty B14 off the prize table when I won nationals. I also have that set up now as a loaner rifle. So I know a lot of other top level competitors do the same thing, and they have loaner setups that they use. Some people sell it. I know that that's a widely debated topic too, and we could do a whole nother hour session on that topic. But there are a good number of top level shooters who will take things and put them to use for newer shooters to get started and things like that. So
the way I look at it is you've got 2 schools of thought when it comes to competition and being competitive. One school is like, competition is kind of like could be viewed as bad because it drives ego and it drives kind of like us versus them, and it's just kind of like dog eat dog, and there's a lot of like it could be fear based or disappointment if you're not winning and things like that. So that's kind of like the negative way to look at competition, but there is a healthy level of competition, I believe, and it could be us working together and rooting for each other, but yet still the drive to win. And there's a lot of good things that go behind that. So like when everyone's trying to get better, everyone's trying to do better, it drives growth, it drives improvement, it drives innovation in the industry. Like look at Masterpiece Arms, all the little teeny little tweaks that they do just to give the shooter a teeny little edge. I mean, that is like driving this industry. And if we don't have the competitive nature, like what is the reason to have a chassis, if it doesn't matter who wins? So this whole thing, I think we still need to reward people for doing a good job. We still want to have the pinnacle. We still want to have the person that's on top because that gives the new shooter someone to aspire to become. So I think we need to keep that spirit in this competition, and if we can have that, then we can have an environment that brings in new shooters. So if we can keep the top people fighting for the top, and we can keep welcoming in the new shooters and making it good for them as well, then I think we can grow the whole thing.
Right.
And that kind of goes into, the match being, this last match we had, it was a little on the hard side. So do we want to make the match a little, like more tailored towards the new shooters? If we can keep the match very competitive and find a way to bring in new shooters and make it so that they can still get impacts, that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, so we're trying to find that balance. And again, so anytime you have something new or something changes in anything, you got the extremes, right? And the pendulum swings, and it's going to swing a little too far sometimes before it settles in the middle. So, that's part of what we're trying to figure out here is we're going to swing a little bit this way and a little bit that way. And Tyler says harder. Of course he does. Because Tyler is the ultimate competitor.
Tyler's great to have for an opinion.
Right.
Because then it fills in that side of the opinion for us nicely.
Exactly. So, but, we struggled with this with our monthly matches for a long time. How do we make it more challenging to our competitors who've been doing this for a while? And how do we also make it not too difficult for the new people. And I know on the national level they struggle with that with the Course-of-Fire. So there's a few different ways to do that, but we can't lose either group of people, because the new people help the sport grow and continue to develop. And you bring more people in, you get more sponsors, you get more resources, you get pushing the technology forward and all that. If you lose your existing competitors, though, then you lose a good chunk of what you need for revenue to put a match on. So we can't have that either. So really, it's finding that perfect balance. 40% for the new shooter and 95% for top. Okay, Deej, we need to have a conversation about how you guys accomplish that, because that's something that would be really.
The percent symbol means per cent, which means per 100, dude. It needs to add to 100.
No, he's saying the average score out of the points.
Oh, sorry, buddy. My math was wrong. You're good.
All right. Yes. No. He's saying per score. I'm assuming it's per score, DJ.
I see what he's saying. Cute. We try for it. Got it.
Yep. Yeah. Pro-Am matches are great. Yeah, that would be nice. I think we're overdue for some Pro-Am, like NRL 22X Pro-Am type deal.
Yeah. Team matches.
That's funny. Yes. Yes, Susie. It is recorded, so you can rewatch it later. Yes, we do need classes to do that. Different targets for different shooting classes.
I think that'd be the way to go.
Yep. But we're not, I feel like we're getting close, but we're not quite big enough yet for that.
To ask a match director to have twice as much steel so that they can have enough for both, if there was only assuming there's only 2 classes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're kind of getting there with our stuff, but we've been kind of like stocking up for 4 years.
And yeah, every little bit of revenue / also a lot of our extra spending money goes into what we have developed. And we've had a lot of people help us out and send us stuff to support our matches. So, yeah. Yep. Yep, Ken, that's kind of where we have our match winners at like 85 to 90%, right, is what we said?
I think 80 to 90.
80 to 90 is what we said in the match director handbook we developed. That, again, is developing too, so we're kind of playing around with those numbers. But yeah, we said 80 to 90% for winners and
it's just,
50 to 60
matches where the winner gets over 90, we've heard people say that it's too easy.
Mm-hmm.
And matches where the winner is below 80, we've heard a lot of people saying it's too hard. So it's just based on what we've been hearing.
What we hear from people.
Technically, the harder it is, the better from a fairness standpoint, but it's just not fun.
Well, harder in the right ways, though.
Yeah, in the right ways.
So you don't want it to be random or too heavily influenced with that stuff.
Yeah, fair and hard would be.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I think I was right, DJ. You're welcome, DJ. Targets are 3 MOA plus. Yep. One's middle of the road. I don't think match is too hard. Yeah. Yep. You could participate in a Pro-Am, Hannah. You'd be a pro in a Pro-Am. Yeah, Gap Grind Style NRL 22X match. We need more free time. Like, it would be super cool to do, but we need a little more free time. Maybe next year we could figure something like that out. That'd be really cool. Thanks, Jen. Well, that puts us right at an hour. You guys have any other final thoughts or questions or anything you want to put us on the spot about? And by us, I mean Justin. Thanks, Dad. Jake, at our match, everyone does get a prize.
Yeah, you were there, dude.
Sweet, Tyler. We're gonna lean on you for it too. We'll do a pro qualifier and a second day pro-am. We'll do a pro-am qualifier the first day. We'll play around with this idea. I really like the idea of doing this. We'll have to figure out a way to match people because I want to do a
What if I just go there and just intentionally shoot really bad? Can I be an am?
Well, then you're gonna get blacklisted. Damn it. No, we're not to identify the AMs. We'll have people with no experience be the AMs. People with experience shoot, and then we rank them.
Oh, yeah.
And then we match them up.
And their score on day one counts so that they have to try hard.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That way your score on both days counts. Yep.
We'll get this figured out.
Yeah, I like it.
Annie's or Voodoo. Come on.
Hannah, make a mailing list of ROs. Okay, so how about this, Hannah? I'll put a call out to anyone who wants to RO at any national level match to message us, and then I'll put a list together of those people if they want to volunteer, like to be contacted for any national level match. How about that?
2-day match. Good idea. I've heard it a couple times now. People are saying have it 2 separate matches so you can go to 1 2-day match and you can get 2 NRL 22X scores.
Yeah. I don't know how Honey's versus Voodoo. Thanks, Todd. Both. How about both?
Did we have much pushback?
Deej already answered. Okay, yeah. Amount of movement in your stages, Trenton. No, we didn't get a lot of pushback about movement. We got a lot of people who thought it was hard, and then with the added variable with the amount of wind and the variation in the wind, it was a little bit too, I think, mentally taxing is kind of what I would delineate from the feedback.
Another quick thing for you guys to consider, one of the things that we kind of discovered when we were talking about the difficulty of our match. So here's one of the problems we have. Like we said, we want to tailor the new shooters and the pros, but the problem is now the pros have been shooting for 4 years, so the pros are like getting really good, and 2 years from now they're going to have 6 years of experience, and the new shooter is still going to have 0 years of experience. So this gap that we're talking about is going to continue to grow, so there's going to be more and more reason to find a solution to tailor towards both people.
Right. I really think having the monthly matches geared towards introducing people to the sport is the way to go, so we can't let that die. That has to stay around, and it makes it so easy for anyone anywhere to set up the course of fire if they have 100 yards. So I think that needs to stay kind of pure for new shooters introduction. But for that to happen, all of us experienced people have to stay involved in that. Otherwise, the new shooters won't have anyone to learn from. So that's the one piece. And then the X series can develop into this higher level competition, more focused on when you're ready, you'd move into the X series kind of situation. And classes, yes, Tyler, classes would be helpful.
Yep. But I think in a perfect world, even the monthlies could still satisfy the pros.
Yes.
That would be sweet, I think.
I still shoot monthly matches all the time.
But it'd be cool to go there and I don't know how to describe it. So as there's more and more matches, there's a ton of matches now. There's so many to choose from. So let's say you're this top level shooter, you're just the best shooter in the world, right?
So Justin, all right.
Not me. So better than me even. So, okay, you're all right, well, which matches should I go to? Well, you're going to be more drawn towards the X matches and the more competitive matches where there's more people that are, at your level. There's more on the line to win, and it's more of a challenge to your skills.
But you have to travel for that a lot of times because there's not as many of them.
Yep.
And you have to spend the entire weekend basically because of that, so you have to have the time. And then it also costs more money. So there's still a balance. Monthly matches are great practice too. So if you're not getting out to one X match a month, then you should be going to monthly matches, I think.
Sure. But if they're too easy for you, then it's not much practice. I guess that's what where I was trying to go.
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah, so picking your target size for different point levels, yep.
Yeah, that was the stage we called Ruth's favorite stage. There was a bigger target worth 7 points and a smaller target worth 10. That's something we've seen in the monthly matches years ago, and a lot of people said they liked that. So we'll probably start doing more of that.
Yeah, that was Justin's idea to bring that in, and I wasn't 100% about it. I was just yeah, okay, let's do it. But I was kind of ooh, I don't know. But it was good.
It's kind of
it messes with me mentally. That's why I didn't like it, because we had that in the monthly course of fire for July, and it totally messed me up because I had to go for the small target. I completely biffed that whole stage because there was just enough wind to blow me off either side of the target. If I shot the smaller or the bigger target a little bit bigger, I would have gotten a much better score. But it cost me the match too. I just don't like those for that reason. But that being said, it worked out really well for our match, so it was a good idea.
Yeah, it's kind of like having separate classes in a way. If you're in a lower class, you're shooting at the 7s, right?
Yeah.
So
same type of deal.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah. Yep. Make the decision for me by putting me in a class and telling me which one I have to shoot at. Yes, I like that. Monthly matches are horrible and cost me a lot of money. That's because we have so many, Tyler.
as far as classes go, or like putting people in categories for a pro-am, I think if someone's been around for a little while and they've shot matches, you could literally look at their scores and make that decision. We could put it in the match description. This is how the decision is going to be made for if you're a pro or you're an am. So go ahead and look at your past performance in these categories, and that'll tell you where you're going to be. That's just one idea.
Right. I think it definitely feels like that's probably the future of the sport. I think that we're on the precipice of it. We're not quite there yet. I think we're getting close though. But we still, we don't have crazy numbers of people yet to try to, differentiate into so many different classes. It gets kind of complicated. And then, for competing in each class and category, how do you make sure that that's lining up, and how do you make it like that without giving everyone a trophy and all that stuff? So
Troy had 2 new shooters in his squad.
Yay!
Troy, you're like the poster child for like the new shooter welcoming person. Here's an example. When I was a brand new shooter in like 2017, who did I call? I called Troy. And Troy said, "What do you have for a rifle?" And I said, "Remington 700. He goes, "Oh, you're going to need an impact." And he goes, "You're going to need a masterpiece." And he hooked me up and helped me out and showed me how to hand load. Thanks again, buddy. I appreciate it.
As do I.
Thanks for everything you've done for everybody.
Skills place. Yeah, Shane, I was looking at that on your website the other day, thinking that would be super cool to have. I was looking at your series, man. I'm checking it out.
Yeah, we're going to be reaching out to you, Shane, about that class thing.
National average match fee for the monthly matches. I'd say most people don't charge more than $20. I'd say 20 is probably the average. Anywhere from $10 to $30 is what I've seen. That's just a guess, though. That's not based on anything facts related, just what I've seen.
A lot of time the young guns will shoot for free. Did you say that?
Oh, yeah. A lot of times young guns shoot for free. So at our club, we do young guns for free. NRL 22 members shoot for $15, and then non-members shoot for $20. But I know there's another local club that does $10 entry fees, and there's another local club that does $20 for everybody. But young guns also shoot free there. 11 clubs in 4 states. Nice.
I've heard of DST referred to as Lord of War.
He does do that, Hannah. He gives you a little taste to get you hooked. Yep, that is true. For sure.
All right, well, since we're not talking about prize tables anymore.
I guess we can wrap this up. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and chatting. It was super fun. Really good discussion. We'll try to plan more of these types of things because I think it's helpful for the community, and it's fun to just interact with you guys more often. So maybe we'll do an Ask Me Anything one of these days. You guys can just post what questions you have. So feel free to contact us anytime, though.
See you guys.
Everyone.